George Pickens is going to be the next player we are going to talk about. Now, I think this is going to change, but he is down 12 spots. ADP right now is 63.1. The reason why I think this changes is the obvious news that Brandon Ayuk is staying in San Francisco. I think some people had an outside hope or maybe a thought that, the Niners wouldn't be able to reach a deal because it looked ugly. But now that I think that people know that Ayuk is staying in San Francisco, they're signing guys, the Steelers, that is, signing guys to the practice squad today. I think that this bodes well for Pickens and his ADP. And if he's down in ADP in your drafts this weekend, I would absolutely scoop him up. All my jokes about in Arthur Smith offense, yes, they're going to run the ball, but Pickens will get fed in this offense. And especially the other thing to keep in mind is people get frustrated about Arthur Smith and when you're drafting high draft capital. Like if somebody's taking a tight end early, like a Kyle Pitts, and all of a sudden you see Jonnu Smith out there. When we're talking about this ADP falling, that bodes well for you, better than if his ADP was up 12 spots. It's down. That's a good thing. So I think that we're going to see Pickens get targets here. Last year, he managed to finish as the quarterback, wide receiver 26 in a pitiful quarterback room, was what I was trying to say. Still finished as a wide receiver 16. So now Russell Wilson, yes, I know everybody moans and groans. He's not the sexiest, but he didn't, for fantasy, he didn't play the worst for Denver. So now you're asking him to do this offense and manage this offense. I think Pickens can do well. And if you're getting him this weekend on drafts and if he's down in ADP, I like it personally. Anthony, what says you, George Pickens, quickly, and then we'll get to our last two rookies.
George Pickens was an all-in player for me this year, and I had to hit the brakes. And I had to hit the brakes because of all the Brandon Ayuk talk. So I'm really happy Brandon Ayuk is staying put and not in Pittsburgh right now, because I would have a lot of entry fees down the drain attached to George Pickens. So I'm back in on George Pickens. I hope I can get him while his ADP is still sunk, but I'll still draft him, around later once it goes back to normal, if it does in the final week of drafting. Arthur Smith, like everybody hates Arthur Smith, and in recency bias, he sucked as a head coach. He had guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, couldn't get anything out of him, misused Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, I don't know if you people remember that far back, people loved Arthur Smith. He unlocked guys like Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis. Jonnu Smith had like 9 touchdowns under Arthur Smith. Like
he didn't
Arthur
unlock
Smith,
Derrick Henry, but he unlocked.
He actually did. He actually fucking did unlock Derrick Henry. Look at Derrick Henry's career numbers, because Derrick Henry, remember early, he was never the feature guy. Arthur Smith, when he became OC, started featuring Derrick Henry. So, yeah, Arthur Smith, I believe, played a big role in unlocking and giving Derrick Henry the workload that we're used to seeing. But I'm just saying, like, if you're worried about the volume, like, guys like A.J. Brown, when he popped under Arthur Smith, didn't need volume. He was efficient. And that is what George Pickens does really well. Like, George Pickens last year had to contend with Deontay Johnson, who was not here anymore. And Pickens, 18.1 yards per reception, 1,140 yards in that offense with those quarterbacks and Deontay Johnson and the way they run the ball. This guy is dynamite, waiting for somebody to hit the fuse. And I think he pops. I think he explodes this year in fantasy football. I don't know what anybody else see. Like, maybe I'm on drugs or maybe you're on drugs. If you don't believe that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, any combination of the two, they are both a vast fucking upgrade over every other quarterback George Pickens has had.
Yeah.
Like, some people are sitting here,
the days of
it's Russell. Yes. They're like, it's Russell Wilson. It's Justin Fields. Did you, like, are people like the Men in Black, do you zap your minds? Do you forget that Justin Fields unlocked DJ Moore finally? And for as bad as it was, like, Russell Wilson was he didn't win games in Denver. just
Sure.
decent quarterback. Like
Right.
Cortland Sutton had a very solid year. And like Russell Wilson's a very good deep ball passer. Guess what George Pickens does really well? The deep ball. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like fantasy football isn't hard.
I will say, as we get to our final two players, I think the situation that you're seeing there is you're seeing a almost like a miscommunication. Like things didn't work out in Denver. And that was a matter of just things didn't work out with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. It was not a marriage that was meant to work. But just because Sean Payton got Russell Wilson out of town doesn't mean Russell Wilson was necessarily bad, at least in terms of we're talking about fantasy football. If you go look at his consistency and on a game per game basis for fantasy, if you go look at some of his numbers for fantasy for the games he was playing, Russell Wilson was not a bad quarterback. He just did not fit that system. Those two things can exist. He could not be good for an NFL system, but he could still be good for fantasy football at that time. We always talk about how to not mesh the two. Both things can exist in the same world, so it's okay. So yeah, I just think people chalk up Russell Wilson as being some kind of, he sucks now because of what happened with his exit from Denver. I mean, we all knew he was going to leave Seattle. That was like an hourglass. It was running out. So, but yeah, I like George Pickens. And speaking as an Iron fan, if I remember anything about Russell Wilson, and I still think he's got a little bit of this left in him, he loved to scramble and then throw the deep ball and find a guy deep. Whether it was Doug Baldwin, whether it was Tyler Lockett, he always found a way. And George Pickens has that capability to be that guy.
Ryan Tannehill, when he got to Tennessee, was left for dead. And then Ryan Tannehill was playing at an MVP level. Not saying Russ is going to do that, but I think people need to stop not every offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are meant to be head coaches. Maybe the responsibility is too much for them. But the last time I remember Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator in Tennessee, they were one of the best offenses in the NFL. They were one of the more efficient offense. Like Mike, I will send you the stats. I'll send you the stats. Like I'm not.
You can send them to me. You have my phone number. You can send them to me.
Under Arthur Smith, Derrick Henry, a 2,000-yard season.
There we go with this.
Tannehill played at an MVP level. AJ Brown, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons and just under, I believe, 19 total touchdowns in those years with Arthur Smith. Like, what are we missing here? Corey Davis, over 900 yards receiving. Remember, the guy sucked before Arthur Smith got there. So I think people need to remember some guys are just better OCs and DCs. And
basically what you're saying is there's a reason why Arthur Smith got the head coaching job in Atlanta.
Exactly.
I got you. I can help you connect the dots.
All right.
We're going to get to our
list. Things a lot better than I do. But we can wrap.